Well, thank you very much. I look forward to hearing your questions. So I am Eric, and this is Jason, and I have deep experience in the wind industry, renewables, co-founding and being Chief Business Development Officer. Jason has deep experience in machine learning, including as co-founder of the Uber AI Labs. So I am the wind guy. Jason's the ML guy. In wind, the problem is that turbines sit there and wait for the wind to get there before making adjustments in important components like blade pitch and yaw, operating in the past, not knowing the future. That's a little bit like driving a car and only being able to look out the back, not seeing the road. This results in lost energy and surprise gusts damaging important components. For driving, you would look down the road. For wind, the option is to know what the wind is coming to your wind farm. We do this with a network of sensors and machine learning delivering preview data, predictions to the wind farm. That results in increased revenue and lower maintenance costs.
Hey, so I'm Jason. A bit more on what we're building technically. So we're deploying a network of pressure sensors around wind farms. We gather pressure data from these sensors in real time, bring it all back to a central node, and ultimately slurp that data off to the cloud. In the cloud, we develop our models and then deploy them from the cloud back to the local site so that they're able to run locally with low latency and connect to customer systems. A little bit on what we've done so far. First, we already have an issued US patent on the technology. It's pretty broad. It covers us in wind energy and other spaces. We quickly built the first generation of sensors and deployed them at UC Davis near us in San Francisco. Did sort of a 1/3 scale test pilot. The goal of this study was to see whether using a network of pressure sensors, we can predict what the wind is at the top of a 30-meter tower. We found that using machine learning, in fact, it was pretty predictable. So here you see two curves, the actual wind and our predictions of the wind. Note that here we're predicting not just the wind right now, but the wind 15 seconds in advance. We have this visibility because no matter where the wind is coming from, we have pressure sensors upwind. Based on the promise of that pilot, we're building next generation of sensors, targeting about $100 BOM. And as quickly as we can, getting these sensors in the hands of a couple pilot customers near us in California, as well as one with a national renewable energy lab called Awaken. This is in Oklahoma. A little bit on our competition. One competing technology is Doppler LiDAR. This is using lasers to kind of see what the air is doing ahead of the turbine. People have been working on this for a while. If it could be made very cheap, then it could work. But unfortunately, it's far too expensive and requires a lot of maintenance. However, just the amount of dollars that have poured into this chunk of the industry proves the value of knowing the wind ahead of time.
Our market is defined by the $90 billion in electricity that wind plants sell every year. We expect to be able to increase that through energy capture and lower maintenance and other services by $5 billion, and we'll capture about 30% of that for a 1.5 billion SOM. We've talked about increased energy and increased turbine life. We'll also be able to play in energy markets as well as the wind energy asset management world. We can also apply this in completely different markets like solar, airports, EV toll, et cetera. Our business model is SaaS. Thank you. Is SaaS with small hardware enabled. The important thing on this screen is the 80% margin and that we'll operate under, and the very fast payback for the customer. For year 5, we predict 125 million in gross revenue, reaching only 8% of our market. Our team is diverse but very strong. We have about 4 people at this point and growing. Our advisor network has deep experience across the industry, including wind farm controls, machine learning, and growing wind companies. We are raising $2 million, and with this, we'll complete our pilots that Jason described and also our minimum viable product and reach our first commercial contracts for revenue ahead of our Series A.
And time is up.
I'd love to hear your questions.
Perfect. Let's do some questions. Thanks guys for sharing. Transparency, I've spoken with them already. Find the concept fascinating. While I'm pulling Craig in, a question I have for you guys. Wind is notoriously slow as a moving market. How do you make this venture scale fast?
Well, the primary mover is the fact that this will be saving customers, saving wind farm owner operators money, making them more money, and providing a payback in less than a third of a year. And then it's also very inexpensive to deploy. So in our initial years, as we grow in reputation, we can even deploy this for free and operate under an energy services agreement model, such that we can prove ourselves to the customer before they even need to pay us money.
Craig, I'll let you.
On top of that, I should say, many of these wind farms are owned by large fleets. So we're convinced that we can sell and convince one wind farm of part of a large fleet, like especially one of our pilot customers, will be able to roll out to the rest of their fleet because they're already convinced and excited.
Craig, I'll let you take it away and then come back with a couple more.
Awesome. And full disclosure, I've spoken with Eric and Jason at length in the past and had a lot of my questions already answered, but I'll probably repeat a couple, but I'm going to ask one that I don't recall if I asked before, which was the sort of origin of this idea. Eric, obviously you've been in wind. Jason, I'm not sure if you have or coming from a different space, but sort of what prompted this idea? How did it originate?
Sure. And of course, nice to see you again, Craig. There is a researcher, inventor, and entrepreneur named Richard Ely, Dr. Richard Ely. And I knew him starting 15 years ago in the wind industry. And he described to me, even back at that period, his concept for increasing the information that wind farms had to operate more efficiently. And over that period of knowing him, he patented it and started working on it. And I was talking with him, some advisory, some interest over that time. When I left my last role with Ensemble Energy, he and I started talking about commercializing it because the enabling technologies of the sensors and the machine learning were converging to make this finally possible. So based on his research, based on a lot of due diligence that I went through and ultimately Jason went through, we decided to jump into this and dedicate our efforts to it. Windscape purchased all of the technology and the IP completely from Dr. Ely, and then he pulled back from the work world 100% because of health reasons, actually. So we are taking this forward as a matter.
Awesome. And then how do I think about the cost of this to deploy at a wind farm and then also your pricing?
The cost of this is very low, and as Jason mentioned, the boxes each are going to be about $100, and you might think about maximum for either easy math, 100 boxes at a wind farm. So think of $10,000 for that raw hardware, and then some supporting hardware and back office and so on. So it'll be more in the early years, but as we move forward, we'll reach our economies of scale. And think of that as, like a tenth or a fifth of the cost of the revenue that we expect from customers each year.
But I mean, that is, I mean, I don't fully understand the operating costs and the building costs of a wind farm, but that's peanuts. I mean, that's a rounding error. Those costs for someone, either building or operating a, 100 megawatt, 200 megawatt wind farm, right?
Agreed. And compared also to the expected increase in revenue that will enable, call it $300,000 for an average size wind farm. So that's also peanuts compared to their benefit.
And does any modification need to be done to the turbine itself, or the turbines themselves, or the control systems in order to get that additional revenue from your sensor and machine learning models?
I can take that one, I guess. So we have a couple different value streams, and they, depending on which control system we're interacting with. So some of the control systems on turbines, they're going to be responding slowly enough, and they're controlled at a high enough level that we can just interface directly with the software. So with the SCADA level controllers, in other words, our models can be running, predicting the wind, figuring out what to do, and sending control signals from our cloud software to their cloud software. So it should be a relatively easy integration. Eric mentioned the energy trading angle, which was the kind of third bullet point on one of the slides. For that angle, traders and sellers of electricity are already set up well to ingest data from other sources. So we can just get them the data however we want, and their software is already set up to receive that data. The final bullet point is to interface with the pitch controllers. So this is the controller on the system that controls how aggressively each blade is pitched as it swings around. That'll be a tighter timeline, require a faster integration. So that might be kind of the third product feature we roll out. That would require interfacing with the control system, feeding data in. Most control systems are able to take in, or rather, it's easy to engineer a control system to be able to take in external data about what the future will hold, kind of mathematically speaking. But in practice, that integration might be a little tricky. We will work with third-party manufacturers of controllers to get that information in. In fact, one of our company advisors is one of the most prolific control board designers, so he'll help us directly integrate that into his system.
Awesome. And last question for me is, what do you see as the likely outcome for this company, assuming success?
Sure. Frankly, I think the most likely outcome is that after some years, we are acquired by either one of the large providers of asset management services to wind farm owner operators, who are themselves being acquired by even larger pan-industry companies, and or one of the wind turbine OEMs that says, we spend tens of millions of dollars trying to eke another 0.5% efficiency out of our turbines. How about if we also just package Windscape and out of the box provide another 2 or 3% efficiency over our competitors? So, GE, Wind, Vestas, Siemens Gamesa, one of those.
Also, another possibility is as we grow, first we get to revenue relatively early so we can support the company's scaling and growth. We're also fundamentally collecting this data, and we have this sort of software level, this platform play for data and machine learning on wind. I think we could become the company that's the best in the world at processing and understanding wind data. We could expand from there into solar and other nearby areas. But fundamentally, our model would also be pretty defensible, because unlike other kind of software ML platform plays, even in renewables, we control the source of the data. So we have access to this high frequency pressure data, which enables us to model all the local wind. So as we scale that could become a very meaningful platform, especially as energy markets start swinging around more and more. As we try to get to higher renewable penetration, the value of data is increasing. So I could see us scaling for quite a while without being quickly acquired.
Point. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was kind of the nature of my question. Is there's a lot of wind startups. There's not a lot of big outcomes for wind startups. There's a lot of sub $100 million outcomes, and not just what it could be the outcome, but what is your actual goal with the business? What does success look like?
Jason, why don't you riff on
Yeah,
that
I don't know.
based on
Sure,
what you just said.
either of us could answer this, I guess. Success for
Yeah.
me looks like being able to meaningfully impact the percent of wind energy that the US or the world is using daily to power the planet, right? So for every extra megawatt hour we can help our customers generate, that's a megawatt hour that's not coming from coal or natural gas. That's a first order effect, right? As soon as we increase that production, that's directly offsetting carbon. A second order effect is by lowering the levelized cost of energy for all of our customers, we help them make decisions to deploy a wind farm where previously that would not have been quite worth it. But now that we lower that overall cost, we can start putting wind farms in places that they wouldn't have previously been profitable. So the second order effect is we accelerate the rollout of wind, and we get to the point where our planet is not using fossil fuels.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think we're pretty aligned on that one.
And on that route, what's the fastest way to get there? How do you acquire customers? What does the sales cycle look like? Do you need sales teams? How do you scale this?
Well, we'll definitely eventually need sales teams. My career has been business development and new technologies and renewable energy. So at first I'll be heading up biz dev, and the sales cycle looks like working with the asset managers of wind farms who regularly make financial decisions on the scale of our SaaS license fee, especially on the fast payback that we're offering. And over time, we'll go straight to them and say, hey, look, this is working for all of your competitors. Enter into a SaaS license fee with us, and we'll deploy this very quickly and give you a benefit. If you don't like it, we'll remove it, but it won't ever impact or interfere with your wind farm operations. So that's a very easy decision for you. Early on, we'll even accelerate that decision, as I said before, by offering that energy services agreement model where they don't even have to put out any money up front. And the reaching the customer process is the basic SaaS model of direct networking, sales, outreach, those torturous conferences that you stand around at your booth and talk to people, et cetera.